Take two. Hey guys, so today we're going to be doing a scene breakdown of my short film, Hunter's Dream. Let's get into it. Alright, so we begin our short film with a shower scene. Now I'm shooting at f1.4, around 800 ISO I believe, and the scene is being lit by a practical red light at the very top. This is just my shower light, and this is actually a big inspiration. Like, the reason why I wanted to shoot this short film in this style is I knew, this light in my bathroom I thought was always interesting, so I always wanted to shoot something with this red light. I also wanted to shoot lower ISO because I wanted to have, a little bit darker scene. I wanted sort of the sides to be dark and then the center to be really, really bright, to make it to sort of enhance that bold red look. Always be careful whenever you shoot in a bathroom. Now the microphone, I'm using a Sennheiser shotgun microphone, and it's in the bottom right outside of frame. And shotgun microphones don't perform very well indoors, especially because there's a lot of echoes, so the bathroom makes that even worse. But it did perform quite well, I think. You might want to consider adding some blankets or some rugs or something if you want to be a little bit more professional. Also be aware that whenever you shoot a shower scene, the glass ends up getting fogged up. So I'm not using cold water, I'm going to use warm water. So the warm water, of course, this is like my second or third take, but in the beginning, the glass would be very, very clear. And then this is maybe the second or third take where it's a little bit foggier. So just be aware that if you want a very clean shot, you'll probably only have one take. Also be aware about some microphones. They perform worse in humidity, especially this scene, like this room ended up being quite humid towards the end of shooting. And the Sennheiser microphones, they perform quite well in humidity, but like, let's say a better microphone like the Schoeps, they do not perform as well. So just be aware of that. Now the next scene, I'm using a 28mm full frame for this shot, but I'm actually cropping into APS-C for this next shot. Now, I really enjoy shooting APS-C, especially at 28mm. That's my favorite focal length, which is I think 40mm full frame equivalent. And this the purpose of the scene is just to, peek a little bit closer. This is quite nice because you can sort of see the grime on the glass. Now on YouTube, you probably won't be able to see it very clearly, but whenever you shoot Super 35, you tend to see a little bit more detail for any given aperture, just because it's stopped down a little bit more. Anyway, I quite like how this turned out. Now this next scene is all about framing. I think I'm shooting f1.4 at 800 ISO. I still wanted to shoot everything silhouetted. I'm wearing black robes, and I wanted to have that silhouette. Now, framing was really important for this scene. As you can see, you don't necessarily need like an amazing background. Sometimes you can just shoot in like a small apartment, and I just basically put the door frame in the middle to separate the left and the right side. And this was actually a big theme for the short film, and also this film was part of a bigger video, which was about light versus shadows. Now, I've said this in previous videos. I've always found that light on the left and shadows on the right provided a more darker emotional response. And the reason I think this is because people generally in the West read from left to right. So there's a directionality towards the right. And if the right is dark, I feel as though that's darker. Now, I don't know if that's true. That's just what I implemented. But I think whichever you decide, try to keep it consistent. If you keep it consistent, light on the left and then darkness on the right, I think it adds a little bit something special. Now the audio, I think in this scene I wasn't too happy with because I think it was a little bit too reverby, a little bit too sourcey. The microphone is at the bottom right. I had to put it on the floor because otherwise it would be inside the frame. I didn't have a microphone stand that I could put above me. So just be aware that with hardwood floors, you also get a lot of reverb, and you might like this type of sound. It sounds really intimate, really close, but for me, I think it didn't really match up with the rest of the film. It was a little bit too sourcey. Yeah, so this light right here, the scene's being lit by just one light, this IKEA lamp with a colored bulb I bought, and I think it's at 100%. I'm turning on a space heater here just to add a little bit of ambiance. this provides continuity with the next frame. So this shot, I think I shot at 3200 ISO. And the reason is because I wanted a little bit more detail, and I wanted a little bit more detail on the face. And there's a little bit of banding in this scene, flickering. And so I used the deflicker effect, which I think benefited a lot because as you see right there, it sort of added a little bit of motion blur. And I think that helped enhance the exact moment that I'm losing consciousness. And then I further, with pulling focus in, this is a technique that I really love to use. I think it's really interesting, and I just love the way it looks. Me pulling out of focus. You could also do this by pulling the camera away. That's a better effect, but as I wasn't shooting the scene, I just basically asked Chili to pull focus to get this effect. I didn't want her to maybe like topple the camera over. So yeah, let's see that one more time. Out of focus and then back into focus. I really like that effect. Now this shot right here, I'm shooting at 800 ISO, f1.4. I wanted to shoot at f1.4 because I wanted to still be a little bit dreamy. The film, I think, I don't think most people understood the short film. I think I made it far too subtle, but it's unclear whether I'm still dreaming at this point, so I wanted to shoot at f1.4. And I'm actually using natural lighting here. I know it looks like some type of, it looks like artificial lighting. That's just because I didn't bring down the highlights. If I did bring down the highlights, it would look something, I think, a little bit like this. But I definitely wanted a dreamier feel. I'm using my clever dark LUT here. I think this LUT is quite nice to sort of enhance this sort of weird dreamy feel. It's got a lot more contrast, and the highlights sort of pop a little bit more. So yeah, this microphone I think is right in front of me on the bed. Now, I think sometimes people tend to overact in these scenes. Like, I don't want to do some type of that Home Alone gasp waking up. I think that would have been a little bit too cliche. So I think it's really important, especially for close-ups, to not overact in scenes. Especially close-ups, you get so close to the face and all like the little facial expressions. They're a lot more apparent. So you don't need to overact in these types of scenes. All right, so once again, we have some more lines here in the framing and the composition. I wanted to separate the left from the right, and I wanted to have light on the left, so I kept that window in the frame. And I shot this, I basically recorded this 3 times because I didn't know the walking speed that I wanted to choose. So I basically filmed this once walking slow, walking fast, and then walking normal speed, and I ended up choosing the best one, and that's the one I felt was most appropriate. This was a very important scene because it ends up being very important. It sets the stage for the climax of the short film. Now this scene's quite interesting. Once again, this is where I'm implementing the technique of clipping the highlights that I mentioned in the video, the main topic. And this is what it looks like without clipped highlights. Now, I don't know about you. This is obviously quite standard, very traditional, but for me, for that dreamy kind of feel, I really do find that this works a lot better. This shot right here, I think turned out quite nicely, and I'm using a crossfade effect to sort of transition. I basically shot this all in one take, actually, and then I just moved here, but I just cut it so that it seemed like a smooth take. I'm using natural lighting here again, so you always got to be careful. You want to film as quickly as possible, back to back, because maybe a cloud comes or maybe the lighting changes, and it will change actually later on, and it can become really annoying to match those scenes up. But I'm using crossfade to sort of illustrate the passage of time, that a lot of time has gone by, and I think it affected. That's why I still like using crossfade or cross dissolve. So yeah, I'm a little bit out of focus here. So just be aware that whenever you shoot full frame, you just have a lot of depth of field. I think I shot this at f8. Yeah, f8 around 800 ISO. And even at f8, although the frame was in focus, I was not in focus here. So this is actually a situation in which I think APS-C or Super 35 is actually beneficial. With natural lighting, I cannot control the light source or how bright it is. Yeah, maybe I could change ISO, but I just wanted to shoot 800 ISO. And so if I shot this shot APS-C and maybe farther away, I would have more of the entire scene in focus, because obviously, you can't be shifting focus for I'm moving around in the scene, but the camera has to stay the same. And so yeah, if I shot this APS-C, if you care about framing a lot and having everything in focus, yeah, APS-C definitely has its advantages. Yeah, so I think this ended up being framed very nicely. Now just be careful about the angle. Sometimes, you might get some weird distortion if you shoot at the wrong angles. It actually makes my home look really, really, I don't know, it just makes it just looks really, really warped. Also, bonus points if anyone can figure out which movie this is on this book on the left side. So this next shot is quite interesting. I wanted to shoot at around f8, but due to light, I didn't have enough light, so I had to shoot at f5.6. And I would ideally like to have myself a little bit better in focus, but this is what I had to work with. And basically, I just had her, because no one's controlling the camera, it's on a tripod. I basically asked her to first stand here, and then set the focus, and then she would end up walking into frame. Now, I wanted to implement a little bit of like a micro Dutch angle to just give this a slightly eerier feel. And I think you can see that in the lines here. It's just a little bit off kilter, and I think that adds a little bit of unease to this shot. One problem was I used a black butcher's knife. That's the only butcher knife I had. So this scene, I had to find a way for you to notice the black knife, because it's difficult to see it. So I used an audio cue. You hear the banging sound, the boom, 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 and then your mind is starting to look for the source of that sound. If I didn't have that audio cue, I think it would be a lot harder to notice this knife. And then, of course, I asked her to brandish the knife slightly, just to flicker. The first take, she wobbled it too much, she brandished it too much, and I thought it was a little bit too unnatural, So I wanted this to be a really subtle movement, and ended up using the second take. I love her expression here. I think it looks so menacing, and that's because it probably is. She was quite mad at me, actually. I think she was quite hungry, chilly. And so, just be careful. The mood of the day can definitely affect the scene, for better or for worse. In this case, it definitely benefited. I really love her expression here. I think it looks really malicious, and actually, kind of looks like she does actually want to kill me. Also, regarding the light versus left, I just put a white jacket right here. So, that's another way you can add some, color or some dimensionality to the scene. It's very simple. It's just attire and clothing, right? Something like sometimes a scene can really be ruined by the wrong color of someone's clothing. So just be aware of that. Sometimes you can use this to your advantage. And I love how she's even more invisible, because she's hiding behind a coat hanger, a coat rack. And when she does appear, it really comes out of nowhere. She comes from the shadows. The sound quality here isn't very good. I think the microphone is actually behind the camera, higher up, but because I wanted to also capture my footsteps, which ended up being irrelevant. So ideally, the microphone should actually be placed a little bit closer to her, especially, the audio here sounds a little bit tinny, I think. All right, this is the murder scene. So the reason why I cropped this so low is so that in a few seconds, when she sees her cross over, you can see her hands a little bit more easily. They're going to be all bloody. So this, I knew this this was the exact reason why I shot at low angle. Because if I shot a little bit higher, maybe you wouldn't be noticing the hands as much. I knew I wanted to be killed off screen, because I don't want to be demonetized. I don't want to show any actual physical violence. So I wanted it to happen off screen, but I did want to see the after effects. So this is just some fake blood. I think some mixture. It was really hard to actually wash off this type of paint. But yeah, this shot right here, although it was shot, I think, in one take, it was actually quite a long take, because what had ended up happening was we had to run over, and then she had to drop the butcher's knife, and we had to change the clothes, and then we had to cover her hands in the blood. And in that short amount of time, the lighting actually changed. So this scene is actually lit from the room in the window behind, and this also on the left, there's another door open with a window. The microphone is actually in that room. And I'm shooting, I think I shot nearly everything at 12 at noontime to try to get as much light as possible into the home. And I just waited for an overcast day to get this effect. But yeah, in just that short amount of time, the lighting changed. And I had to actually change it in post. I wonder if you can even see the difference between, you can probably see it. You might be able to see it on the right, this wall right here. Did you see the shadows change slightly? Anyway, it did, so I had to actually correct it a little bit in post. And the reason why I asked her to wear a pink robe is because I wanted her to inevitably throw it on the ground to make it more apparent that she's stealing my black robe. And that's just part of the story, but I'm pretty sure most people don't really understand it. If you do want to learn more, you can also just search Hunter's Dream. It will make a little bit more sense, possibly. So yeah, the sound effect of me getting murdered right here, that sound of I actually recorded that by chopping a coconut. Try to record Foley and other sound effects as close to the source or the actual environment as possible. So I ended up just recording that actually right here in the middle of this hallway. I just used the exact same butcher's knife, and I actually chopped up several fruits and vegetables. The coconut ended up sounding the most realistic. So, I just whacked it twice and then used some sounds, added maybe another sound effect to sort of complete that sound. All right, and then finally, we have the final scene. We shot almost everything in one take. There are only a few scenes that we didn't shoot one take, but I think the majority we shot one or two takes. And I really like how she slowly approached. You just want her to stand. This is her destination of where she stands. This is where you want to end up focusing. And then I asked her to take off the clothes to suggest that she's going to take a shower, sort of repeat the cycle or to initiate the cycle of what just happened, to add some continuity to the beginning. So yeah, I think it ended up turning out pretty well. Some other things that I considered was I considered adding some white noise to this sequence to make it feel a little bit dreamier, and this is what it would have ended up turning out. So just a little bit of white noise. I actually used this in the previous soundtrack. But I ultimately ended up against this because I sort of wanted to hear those subtle, small detail, those sounds like the size, the moving of these little teacups, and then these small sounds. Sometimes I think people can be tempted to do more, but actually having less can also be more effective sometimes. Also, I think I'm also really happy how it turned out because I honestly do believe that sometimes clipped highlights, I think, do add a little bit more. Like this, I don't know. I think it feels flat. I think it feels boring, and it definitely doesn't feel like a dream. So if I didn't do that, I think it would have a completely different feel. What do you think? So I hope you found that interesting. Now, I think it's important to remind everyone that a lot of these passion projects, sometimes it's easy to get frustrated because sometimes the actors might not execute exactly how we want them to. And just remember, whenever you're with friends or you're with family, they're usually not professional actors. So at the very least, try to bring a storyboard or maybe try to act out the scene before them, so it's easier for them to understand exactly what you have in mind, because they're not going to read your mind. They don't know exactly what film you're referencing most of the time. So just make sure you have fun when you're filming, because that's, at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. It's for fun, and this is what we love to do. Now, if you want more resources, we have a Discord server where you can download some of the soundtracks I've made or the LUTs that I use for my videos. I'm probably not going to keep them free in perpetuity. Maybe at around 5,000 or 10,000 subs, I'll probably try to monetize those so that I can start making a living, and maybe I can do YouTube more. But yeah, you can download them for free at the current moment. All right, cheers. Take 3.